Chapter 6. As is common among most cat species, the males are generally solitary creatures, and the big male cougar fit this profile except for when he might run across a female of his species in heat, and that had not happened since he was taken from his mountainous homelands of British Columbia at the age of 3 years. Now at almost 5 years of age, those memories had faded to almost nothing, until he caught the faintest scent of the female drifting on the northerly breeze. All of his basic instinct for breeding took over as he ran toward the female with astonishing speed, covering the distance of 20-foot leaps. When he came within a mile of her location, he heard the female emit a demonic-like scream that grew in intensity, then changed to what many have described as sounding like a woman in distress. The female was across the river from the male at a point where a sandbar, exposed by the seasonal low water level, made the river about 40 feet across. Undeterred, the male continued toward the water's edge without slowing and made the 40-foot leap with only his hind paws splashing the river's edge as he landed on the other side. Another smaller prospective suitor of about 150 pounds had already shown up and hissed a warning to the much larger male. They responded by cuffing him alongside the head, then seizing the smaller cat by the neck with his jaws and shaking him viciously. The smaller cat went limp and fell to the ground. Any other day the big male would have killed his rival, but his attention was fixated on a 180-pound female that rolled on the ground playfully in front of him, signaling her surrender. They stayed together for the next 3 days, and then the female suddenly turned on the big male with a show of teeth and loud hissing. It was time for him to leave, and the last few hours were soon forgotten as a ravenous hunger and the need to kill took over his thoughts. Moving silently, he worked through the bottom area of cypress and oak trees until the smell of a herd of feral hogs drew him to their feeding area. One big boar stood guard while several sows with their piglets rooted to bottoms, looking for any type of mast available. One pig of about 40 pounds caught the eye of the cat since he was closer, and all the way across the herd from the huge 500-pound boar, which sported a razor-sharp set of 6-inch tush. The big cat stalked the pig with his body flat to the ground, only the tip of his tail twitching in much the same manner as his cousin, the domestic house cat. When he arrived behind a small shrub at less than 20 feet from the unsuspecting pig, he leapt in one bound to its back, sunk his teeth into the screaming pig's neck, and jumped back into the dense vegetation and bounded away with the pig struggling helplessly in his jaws. The other hogs responded to the squeals of terror with a wild dash to where the cat had been, but he easily outpaced the herd with his still lively evening meal clutched firmly between his powerful jaws. After putting about a mile's distance between him and the hogs, the cat proceeded to tighten the hold on the pig until he felt the neck bone crack. The pig quivered as his spinal cord was severed, and the cat began to feed on the soft organ meat before the life had left the body. After eating almost all of the pig, the cougar climbed an old live oak with the intention of sleeping his first real sleep in several days. However, the nap was cut short by the arrival of the hogs that had been driven into a maddened fury by the squeals of the dying piglet. With the old razorback in the lead, they arrived noisily at the spot where the cougar had eaten a pig, and the boar started tearing up every shrub around in a demonic fury. They were about 20 yards from the tree that the cat was in when he decided to move to another large oak that had intermeshed a large limb with the one that he was on. As the cat moved silently through the treetop, without so much as a rustle of leaves, the hogs moved closer to the base of his tree. Then, just as it seemed that he would be able to escape unseen, the large limb from the other oak, weakened by a nest of carpenter ants that had hollowed out the limb, broke with a resounding crack under his weight, and the cat tumbled 40 feet to the ground with a startled snarl. The snarl turned into a scream of pain as the boar inflicted several deep gashes in the cat's rib cage and shoulder in the several seconds that the cougar was dazed on the ground. One of the big females rushed in and grabbed the cat's tail between her powerful jaws, pulling him off balance just as the boar made a slashing attack to the already wounded shoulder that cut the muscle to the bone in a jagged 8-inch tear. With a roar, the cat swung at the boar's head with a huge paw, claws extended, and ripped the right eye from the socket as the claws opened the boar's head to the bone from the top of the eye socket to the tip of his flat nose, exposing cartilage, bone, and teeth. The boar turned away from the attack, and the cat turned his attention to the sow that had his tail in a painful grip. One swipe of the paw dazed the sow, and the cat ripped her throat out before she could regain her feet. As soon as the cat finished the sow, he leapt on the back of the boar that had staggered blindly into a thick stand of palmetto scrub. Jumping on his back, the cat held on with his injured paw, claws extended, while burying his teeth deep into the hog's flesh and raking the sides of the boar with powerful back legs, much like a bull rider spurs a bull. He continued to tear at the animal mercilessly, ripping long gashes along the rib cage and into the flanks until his 500-pound opponent finally collapsed in shock from pain and loss of blood. The other pigs had run squealing from the scene of the carnage when the sow had died, and now it was just a wounded, angry cat and a dying boar left in the arena. The cat used one claw on his undamaged side to prod deeply into the hog's stomach, watching sadistically as the hind legs twitched with each prodding. He then tore the rib cage open with his teeth and proceeded to disembowel his dying opponent before lying down nearby to lick his badly injured shoulder and side. When the cat awoke from his long sleep brought on by fatigue and loss of blood, his left shoulder and leg were so stiff and sore that he could not put all of his weight on them. His side had been laid open to the rib cage from the razor-sharp tusk of the boar hog, and one of his ribs had been broken. Working slowly, he covered the two pigs, and then set off with a limp toward the river for a much-needed drink of water. He would stay here for the next few days until he'd healed enough to leave the area, or until his kill had putrefied to the point that he couldn't eat it, which would not take long in the almost 100-degree temperatures of the swamp.